If you don't stay down and you never quit, come on over here and sit on the far end of the bench.
Good evening, bench warmers, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys very much for tuning in on a special bonus edition of the Far End of the Bench podcast. March it's probably up there with one of the best sports months of the year. Everybody knows the March Madness tournament. I brought on a special guest. I went out and made sure that we had somebody else to give opinions on this. I'm pretty sure that he likes to refer to the tournament in this month the same way I do, March Madness. But this is the March Madness preview. Wrestling NCAA Division I championships are taking place this weekend, starting Thursday in Kansas City, going all the way through Saturday night. All the sessions will be available on ESPN and everything. If you know me, I mean, Nico and I talk about it quite a bit. Wrestling was my third thing. Him and I have two sports that we did mainly, and then we had like a third. I would say wrestling is more of my second thing now, but I'm a huge fan of it. I know. There's a lot of people out there that are as well, because when I posted my predictions, I got quite a bit of hate from everyone. Try and make things different. Everybody loses their minds, but we're here. We're ready for it. I have former guest of the show and now makes him a recurring guest, 3-time NCAA qualifier, 2-time NCAA All-American, Hunter Mullins from Western Colorado University, now coaching out in Kansas. Also a state champion as a coach now. Congratulations on your guys' season. And thanks for coming back on the show. And it's my favorite tournament, my favorite sporting event of the year. Nobody quite understands why I can sit in front of my TV for 3 straight days and watch nothing but wrestling, but it just makes sense in my mind. So thank you for coming back, bud.
Yeah, dude, no problem. What else are you going to do in March except watch wrestling? And that's like, I'm actually down, even since our seasons got over, wrestling's been nonstop. Like, we won state a month ago, and the next weekend we had kids state, and the next weekend I went to Big 12s, and now this weekend, or then last weekend I was at D2s. And so it's just been nonstop and been fun. This is the part of the year where wrestling's the most fun because I'm a fan now. So.
Yeah, if you like brackets, like if you like to fill out March Madness brackets, the wrestling tournament has 10 brackets, and not only do you get 10 brackets, you get wrestlebacks, you get 3rd, 4th place batches, 5th, 7th place. I know if this bracket setup, you can give me it blind, and if you tell me who's seated and who loses where, I can tell you where they would fall in the bracket. That's how much, like, I was seeing brackets in my sleep. But we're going to talk about all 10 weight classes. We're going to make some predictions. I'll have my predictions that I put out there about All-Americans scrolling across the screen as you guys watch. But before we get into the actual tournament and everything, be sure to follow at FEOTB Pod, all social media, subscribe to the YouTube channel. This is our bonus episode this week. Nico will be back tomorrow, and we're also having Darren and Jordan on to do March Madness. So I'll have to take off the wrestling. I'll roll the mats up. We'll talk about basketball tomorrow, and then I'll make sure I'm ready to go again for Thursday. Finally, we will have an exclusive interview dropping next week. So a lot of good content coming your way, and that can push us into before we get into the tournament this weekend. Let's remind people, because some might not have heard your interview, but to be honest with you, is one of the most popular videos and pieces of content that we put out. So there are a lot of people that heard your last time you were on here. We were talking about, it was the COVID pause and then coming back, finding your way back, qualifying again for the NCAA tournament. But just why would you be considered a wrestling expert? I'll put it that way. Why should everybody listen to your opinions that we're going to talk about?
Well, you throw expert on there. I don't know. I don't like to think there's expert, and then there's just overly exposed. And I think I've been very well exposed to wrestling. That's what I tell people. Like, that's why I was able to love wrestling so much, is because I really think I was a fan just as much as I was a competitor, an athlete, or anything like that. I used to watch wrestling to get me better, or to pick up on things, but also it was just fun to sit down and watch it the same way you watch a football game or a basketball game or anything like that. So I don't know if I'm an expert. I will say I've just been around it a lot. So
it's part of it. Part of the expert thing is having a passion for it. And I know because you and I met in college. We were RAs together on the same staff. You were on the wrestling team. I was on the football team. I wasn't tough enough to wrestle in college, is what I like to tell people. Like, I wasn't gonna. If Piper got to just pick me out one day, I don't think that I would ever come back. That would be like the last time I'm ever in a wrestling room. But what we talked about, I did Stearman too, which is kind of funny because I ran into him. We our schools, so he's coaching at a school down in Colorado Springs, and we've actually dueled each other for the last 2 years. So I've been able to see him a couple times. But we would all just kind of sit there and talk wrestling.
Who wins between you and Stearman's teams?
We beat him 2 years ago. I'm pretty sure they beat us this past season. It was our last duel before the regionals, before regionals, and our kids were like so done at that point. I'm pretty sure senior missed weight that day. It was not set up, and it was their senior night duel, so we were kind of set up to fail. I'm not gonna. Yeah. They earned it, but yeah, that was the worst night. One of the worst nights of the season. He won. He won big this last year.
That's all right.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about it. 125 is probably the most volatile weight class of the entire season. We had last year the incredible upset, Ramos over Lee in the semifinals on Friday night. We're probably going to see some sort of an upset again this year. And there's like 6 guys that I think are liable to be able to pull this off. I wouldn't put Spratley out of the conversation. Been able to watch a lot of Oklahoma State. You guys can see it scrolling down. I have Stanich picking up the win. Braden Davis, the true freshman out of Michigan, by way of Penn State, number 1 overall seed as a true freshman. And then Stanich, I believe he's a redshirt freshman, but you got a freshman as the 1 and 2 seeds. You got a sophomore sitting there as the number 3 in Ayala, and Ramos is super young also. So there's a lot of firepower. And these are matchups that we've seen quite a bit. Like Ramos and Ayala have wrestled a lot. And then Stanich and Davis are just here to, it feels like this is their coming out season. This is the year that they're going to show everybody else that nobody's touching the 2 of them. Who have you been most impressed with at the 125 weight class?
Really, honestly, I think I have Davis over Ayala in the finals. I think Davis kind of came out of nowhere, but watching his Big Ten tournament, watching his interviews, just the way he carries himself, he doesn't seem like a freshman.
That interview was brutal.
And I'm telling you, in my opinion, if a Penn State guy makes the semifinals, he's not losing. And so I have Davis making the semis. So almost because of that, by default, I have him making the finals. Another guy that really impresses me is Spratley. I think he's kind of flown under the radar a little bit this year, and we maybe didn't see him in some of the bigger duels or against some of the top guys or some of the matchups that we would have liked. But I think he's sitting there poised for a run a little bit as what's he seated even? 6?
He's the 6.
6, no, yeah, and I think he's in a good spot.
I remember watching him. I kind of got put onto Spratley at the beginning of the season because I watched that Oklahoma State NC State duel. That was the first top 10 dual win that Oklahoma State had in 3 years. And Spratley was kind of kicked things off. They started at 125s and beat Jacob Camacho, who's a returning qualifier. And Spratley's just this young, I believe this is his first year as the actual starter in the lineup. So he's been really impressive. And you got to see him at Big 12s, obviously, like you just said. He could be, I have him finishing 6th because the experience factor. And I kind of agree I kind of agree that when Penn State makes it to the semis, it's very difficult to predict that I made a couple of those predictions, but it's hard. Like they normally finish. They don't normally leave stuff on the table. They normally take all the points that they can. And Davis, the last takedown against McKee in the Big Ten finals, I think he did that purposely. That wasn't just to show that he beat McKee, even though he did he gave him the old, I call it the Iowa shove. You know, when Iowa would like let you out, but he gives you a little bit of a shove on the top of your head before you actually stand up. He gave one of those, but that was a message to the rest of the country. Like he's finishing his matches till the very end because he didn't need that takedown. He had the lead. He basically won it with like 30 seconds left, and he decided to stay on the attack. That's a special kind of thing. That's not what you normally see, especially in these, conference final, NCAA finals matches, when you have a guy that's willing to pull the trigger all the way down to the end. That's a little bit of a dangerous combination. So I think Davis is a good pick. He just seems so weird in that post-match interview. It's the weirdest thing. I don't know why they have to interview right after you finish wrestling 7 of the hardest minutes that you've ever had to go. You're like, yeah, let's put a microphone in front of your face. This will be nothing bad could happen here, right? AJ Ferrari. No, nothing bad's gonna happen. Trust me. But that was he's a robot. He's like, I feel like that's what Cael Sanderson dreamed about when he was picturing who he wanted to bring in. I haven't had a 125-pound champion in like 10 years. Let's go ahead, bring in the robot. It looks like he's Dolph Lundgren's clone.
He does, doesn't he? Like that interview, and that interview just like, that was like the most perfect Penn State interview you'd ever seen. Like, yeah, I won, no big deal. Like, that's just how they operate almost.
When's my next match? When do I get to go score points? Can I?
Yeah.
I'm going to take you down. If you keep talking to me, I'm going to take you down. I don't know what to do if I don't take somebody down every 5 seconds that they're talking to me.
Yep.
Have you watched Stanich at all? That's because he's at Lehigh, so EIWAs are a little bit more difficult to see. I will say I was really impressed. He ended up beating it's the guy out of Cornell. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Not really a highly ranked guy, but the way that he did it, Stanich looks like he's there to play. And Lehigh's always a tough school. Like that's a good little rivalry, Lehigh and Penn State.
Yeah, and he beat Unger in the EIWA finals, and yeah, it was controlling, and he ran away with that tournament. I haven't seen enough of him. That's why I took Stanich in the semis, just because I haven't seen enough of Stanich. I feel like Ayala at his peak, from what I've seen, is capable of making the finals.
I think Ayala is one of the few guys that I can say has no feeling in his face. Have you seen how that guy wrestles? He's got like a permanent black eye, and permanent busted nose.
Yep, face first all the time. But it's fun to watch but like everyone in this bracket, it seems like has 4 losses.
Yeah.
I mean,
could you be honest with me? If I told you McKee goes on a run and finally does capture it, maybe finishes for him, I'll say top 3, would that surprise you?
No, because 9 different guys at this weight have been ranked number 1 this year. So that means there's a guy on the bracket that has been ranked number 1 at some point in the season that isn't going to end up on the podium.
I found that quite a bit, actually. Like former All-Americans that I was having lose on Friday morning, and I had to think about it for a little bit, but just I've seen a ton of it, and right now, it's kind of a good. We don't have to just jump weight class to weight class. It's a good segue because I saw a guy I'm sure you're a fan of, Bo Nickel, talking about it. He was mentioning that college folk style is probably the most exciting style of wrestling in the world and probably the highest level. I think that this season has kind of proved that, but what do you see that shows that this is just a different level that we're seeing at the college folk style level?
I think there's just not. I think you have the wrestling's just better. Top to bottom, the wrestling is just better. I think our top end guys are getting tougher, and I think feels like a lot of separation between like those 1 and 2, 1 and 3 guys versus everybody else. But I mean, really, it is so tough to get just to this tournament now. The amount of matchups that you see in conference tournaments where you're like, oh, this is a quarterfinal match at Big 12s, but it could very easily be the 5th and 6th place match in NCAAs or the 3rd and 4th place match in NCAAs. I mean, folk style to me, I like folk style more. And I wrestled freestyle and Greco all growing up. I think folk style is the most fun to watch.
The rules are definitely catered to like the viewing audience because the 3-point takedown, I guess it wasn't as big of a deal as people were making it out to be at the beginning of the year. And it ended up, it's exciting now when you have, as long as you're within 3, realistically, if you're down 4 and a guy has a minute and 15 seconds of riding time, you get a takedown, like a minute and change left in the 3rd period and a ride out, we're going to overtime. It actually has increased the productivity that we've seen, and it hasn't taken away the riders because if we look at Braden Davis, he won his Big Ten championship by getting a turn on the key. It wasn't even a takedown that got him the points that he won the match with. So The mat wrestling hasn't suffered. The 3-point takedown's exciting as hell. And in the college wrestlers are, I feel like I wrestled with a lot of good guys in high school, and I've seen a lot of good wrestling. But even just in Western's room at a Division II level, there's such a difference between a really good high school wrestler and a decent college wrestler, that seeing the level that we're going to see this weekend is even a step further. These are all guys that could probably, like, that's the crazy thing. We qualified half of Mexico's wrestling team a couple weeks ago. Austin Gomez, RBY, like the Americans qualified half of Mexico's national wrestling team.
Yeah, and guys used to not have to do that to make our world and Olympic teams, and now they do. And we're getting better every year, I think.
Let's move up to 133. What was the lowest you ever wrestled? I know you were in the 40s. Were you were never lower than 41, were you?
In college?
Yeah.
In college, I was at 65 my whole career. I cut to 57 times, but
that's what it was. Okay. Yeah. No, I was interested because I'm obviously a heavier guy, so I always watch the heavyweights. I think 33. I'm a little bit biased, and it's recency bias, but the EIWA final with Crookham and Arujau was one of my favorite matches that I've seen all season. It was high paced. Even though nobody really scored for the first two periods, Arujau wrestled so differently, and that was what we saw at last year's tournament. It hasn't been the same this season, so I don't have him finishing as the champion. I don't have him repeating, and I have fixed chasing down his title in his 6th year. You know that guy's as old as I am, right? I'm older than you were, and Fix is as old as I am. He's been wrestling in as many NCAA tournaments as I've been out of college. That's a little bit insane to think about.
And I agree with you. Like, isn't it? It's just fitting. I just feel like it's a fitting bracket for Fix to win. You know, like I don't think Vito's. I just think there's so many things in this bracket that are unproven. And the most consistent thing about anything in this weight is that Dayton Fix has seemed like he's on a mission all year.
Yeah.
And
he's only had like 12 matches, but those 12 matches were the most important ones. And I think they all proved a purpose. He was basically given, I think John Smith gave him a task each time that he wrestled this season. This is what I want you to work on. And that was the goal. It wasn't just to win or to score points. It was to make sure that you do this, because that's going to help you out at the end of the season. Because obviously he's been really close. You can talk about the Suriano match and whether or not there should have been a technical violation for a headgear pull, because that's what everybody likes to talk about. When you're a finalist a couple of years in a row and it doesn't work, that could be really discouraging, or it can be really motivating. And I guess it was really motivating for Fix because he's still there. Like, what can you even get a doctorate in at Oklahoma State? Like, animal husbandry, something like that.
I don't know, but he's gonna get it. He's gonna get doctorate of wrestling.
Doctorate of wrestling.
But yeah, I think it's just, it feels like his year, and obviously, like, there's guys that can beat him, but I think the bottom side of that bracket is gonna turn into such a cluster that everyone's down there just going to kind of beat each other up. Now, I will say Shaver from Rutgers is scary. He lit the world on fire at Big Tens.
No, that was a tech fall in the Big Ten finals against a guy who's lost 2 matches all season. Like Ragusin, who was on a possible Olympic red shirt before the guy that was there initially got hurt. Yeah, that was I have him finishing above Ragusin for that reason, because that was just a beating. Like that, after the first duck under, the match was over. And I haven't seen Ragusin look like that all season. Michigan's actually been fairly surprising to me this entire season, with as consistent as their lineup has been. Outside of 4, I think you could say Fix, Crookham, Arujau, and Shaver, maybe Ragusin, but Ragusin would have to like take another step this weekend. Those first 4 could all be finalists. Yeah, finalists and possibly win it big. Like Fix, maybe he hits a couple of his inside trips in the finals match and he beats Crookham 10-1. And Crookham's had this great season all year, not to take anything away from that, but that's just weird things happen. I remember the Miles Martin Bo Nickel match, and it was a double leg that Miles Martin totally beat Bo Nickel on, and all of a sudden he's on his back and he's getting pinned, and he's not a national champion that season. It happens just in the blink of an eye like that. That's what this weekend is. That's all this is. Because also I didn't have a Penn State guy All-American at this weight class. Nagal's, I believe he took 6th last year. He is a returning All-American. He's the 10 seed. He had a bad Big Ten tournament, but whatever voodoo that Cale Sanderson does in that Happy Valley wrestling room, it seems to work this time of year. It's very difficult for me to put them out of my bracket at all. Like, oh, Penn State probably going to win. Oh, another Nittany Lion.
And you're a lot, because I mean, like, I buy into it. Like, I really do think if you have a PSU on your singlet at nationals, I feel like it almost spots you points. Because whatever Cale does, I mean, we've never seen anything like it. I have Nagal at 4th. I have Nagal taking a loss in the 2nd round and coming all the way out the back and getting 4th.
Yeah. No, I had him losing to Ragusin in the Friday evening session, so it's not like he's two away from being in the 4th, 5th place match, 2 wins away. So we're pretty close on him.
I have him beating Ragusin.
Yeah, that was the difference there.
But no, yeah, that weight's super. It wouldn't surprise me if 5 different guys won it there. And I think that's kind of the weight what we're looking at with a lot of the lightweights. I mean, 25.
Well, yeah, if we want to talk about 41. I think 41's where there could be a lot of debate and a lot of people can make arguments a lot of different ways. I want to talk about a guy that you just saw in person, Echmandia from Iowa State at 141 pounds. He is a true freestyler in like the sense he doesn't like mat wrestling at all. He wants to be on his feet. That's where he's most comfortable. He's gotten a lot better. I watched him, that Iowa State duel at the beginning of the season is fun to watch because the rivalry, but it's too early on. He was a little bit raw at the time. Echmandia I saw in the Big 12 finals that won the Big 12 conference. This is a guy that could I would say he's my dark horse to light the world on fire. He can go on a run that totally blows everybody's expectations out of the water. But I'm picking with my heart in this weight class. I like Jesse Mendez. I've liked him ever since he got into the lineup last year. I'm not an Ohio State fan, but I would like to see Jesse Mendez win. And I'm not a big fan of Bartlett. I don't know what it is. I just don't really like him all that much.
I think, I mean, that whole weight's a toss-up. Echmandia looks, I mean, he looked like the real deal at Big 12s. He's matured. He's a freak. I mean, you watch him walking down on the arena floor, and he looks like a 74-pounder. He's huge, but man, he can move. I mean, I have him doing about the same thing. I got him making a run and beating Mendez in the semis to make the finals. Now, I think he's a tough matchup for Bartlett. Or Bartlett's a tough matchup for him because I do think if anybody can slow him down, it's Bartlett.
I mean, Bartlett lives to win by 1 point.
Yeah, and he's good at it. Like, that's the thing.
Really
he doesn't accidentally win 4-3. But
that was the goal the whole time. I think that Cale gives him a point match at the beginning. He's like, I want you to win 2-1. I want you to win 6-4. I want you to win 5-2. And he can do that. He's very cerebral. I think that's probably the X factor. I've been saying I don't know what the X factor is about Penn State. I think it's the mind, because Cale and his brother know that all the guys they're recruiting are the best physically. They don't have to worry about that. They keep them in good shape. They let them wrestle. They let them have fun. But I feel, and you're another good person to talk about this with because you guys had McMahill on the staff, but that sports psychology and wrestling, I do a lot of it at the high school level, and I don't know as much as these guys that are getting paid by these other programs, but that's like a majority of what I do with the wrestlers that I work with. And I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, but I've been told, oh, you're my favorite coach to have with me in the corner when I lose. I'm like, I'm glad I make you feel better, and I'm glad you feel like you learn, but I don't want to be the coach oh yeah, Coach James is in my corner. We can go ahead and put this one in the bag. No, that's not what we should do. But that sports psychology is huge, and I think Bartlett may hold that edge. Penn State holds that edge, I think, overall throughout the country.
Yeah, I agree with you, and he does, and because I agree with you. Like, I don't think Bartlett's the most exciting to watch, and I don't think that he has the most dynamic offense. But you never feel like you can pick him to lose.
No.
Like, or it's hard to pick him to lose because he controls matches. Anybody.
Yeah, and I only picked Mendez over him because Mendez just proved that he can beat him. He's one of the few guys, very few, very, very, very few guys that have proven that he can beat Bo Bartlett. And that was, it was still anybody's match. It wasn't a Braden Davis get an extra takedown so that I can prove a point. This was, oh shit, thank God I finally won a conference championship. That was, it's weird because I hate Ohio State in every other sport, but their wrestling team, it's probably Tom Ryan. I like Tom Ryan. I would have liked to have been on his team. I feel like that would be a cool culture to be around with all the guys that they have there. Stieber, Jaggers. I watched the Young Bucks on Flow Wrestling because ever since I became a wrestling coach, that's how I filled the gap. Because like I said, I didn't wrestle in college, but I fill a gap in by just watching it, and that's my favorite thing to do now. But like the Ohio State team, this is not the year that they're going to really press Penn State. But like next season when Mendez is a junior, the year after when like they're all seniors, that might be where we see Penn State being threatened by an Ohio State team that the class that Mendez is in is on another level.
Oh, they are. And they're going to get, and they still have such a high ceiling. They're not even close to their ceiling yet.
No, they had no idea Feldman was going to grow into a heavyweight. They thought Feldman was going to stay as a 97-pounder his whole career. I was like, did you see how big that guy was when he got to campus? Yeah, he's a heavyweight. He's the one guy that can gain 20 pounds after a wrestling practice. It's sick.
Yeah.
It's a little bit ridiculous. Who'd you pick to win? You have Bartlett winning this one then at 141?
At 41, I have Bartlett over Echemendia. I think because I really like Mendez too, but I do think there's something about Echemendia. I think he goes on a tear and he beats Henson, Jack, Mendez, and then that opens the door up for Bartlett to take him out in the finals and win his title. Because then I have Mendez coming back and get third, Woods gets fourth, Happel gets fifth.
We both have Woods at fourth. I don't think that what I saw, it was the Lemley match. The Lemley match against Real Woods was where I kind of because before then I thought that nobody was going to touch Woods at 141 this year. Even Bartlett, as good as he was, I thought that Woods was the one to beat. After Lemley put him on his back twice, that was where Real's he's gonna All-American. I still think that he's gonna have a great season, but that's not he's not Iowa's savior like they were thinking about earlier on this year. No. That's not the engine that drives the team.
No, and that's the thing is I don't think Iowa really has that right now.
I did not pick many Iowa guys to win. I don't have many Iowa guys in the finals or close to the finals at all. It was shocking to me because I'm one of those guys. I'm old enough that I remember like my dad had the VHS of Dan Gable's Mental Toughness and like teaching you how to be strong through all of that. Like it's a little bit wild to me, but yeah, I don't have many Iowa guys. A couple of them, but I actually have Woods finishing fifth. So he finishes his weekend on a win, but it's a lower place. It's a little bit interesting. It's not what I was expecting towards the beginning of the year.
No, I don't think either. There doesn't feel like there's a bunch of energy around that team right now. Like,
unless they have some, I think that ever since that whole Ferrari incident at the Soldier Salute, that's kind of been like where their momentum totally tanked. And I don't know if it was because they decided not to bring him in. I don't know what the hell's going on with that whole story. The Ferrari family's like the Kardashians of the college wrestling world, apparently, in the MMA world.
They are.
I have no idea, but ever since that point, they've been on a different trajectory. I would say I have more confidence I'll get to it at the end. I can't even remember where I put them. I don't have them in the top 6 just because based on the predictions that I had individually, I couldn't have put Iowa in my top 6 with what I had them doing on the actual bracket. I know they qualified a lot of guys, but I have a lot of guys losing for them. Like the mentality doesn't seem to be there. Like an Iowa guy used to lose the match and then, okay, he lost in the first round. He's guaranteed third because nobody's going to beat him for the rest of the weekend. I feel like now you lose a match as an Iowa wrestler. Maybe it's the brands being too difficult on them. They're like, 2 and Q or 1 and 2 because you just can't you can't mentally bounce back from that. It almost seems like that's where the Hawkeyes are.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with you. They just need some energy, something to get pumped into that. And I think they thought it was Ferraris, but it was not.
That was not a good horse to bet on.
No.
Except that horse was also on steroids. 149-pound predictions. I have Ridge Lovett. Yeah, we're up to 149.
I do too. I like Ridge.
He just good.
It just feels like it's his weight to lose. Arrington from NC State is tough.
Parco beat Ridge Lovett earlier on this season. Parco's the other little dark horse there, but I don't know about you. I don't trust big Pac-12 wrestling. Pac-12 wrestling is the biggest joke to me of all D1 program. I feel like D2s are better than the Pac-12 tournament.
I think they're getting tougher. I think they're just not deep. That being said, I do think it's tough for me to look at Parco with 3 losses and then see his road. Parco's road as a 2 seed, it's hard to get it much tougher. I mean, you got Corbin Munson, probably second round, I think he's a 4-time qualifier and has never AA'd. Like, that's a tough second round match. You got the winner of Kasich and Lamar, who I think is going to be Kasich.
Yeah.
And even if you make it there, you either have Gomez, and then or D'Amelio.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Parco makes the semis. I have him losing to Kasich.
It was not a good year to be the 2 seed in this weight class.
No.
I had him beating Kasich in the quarters, but that was mainly based off of reputation. That's the one thing about Parco as a Pac-12 wrestler. He at least has the reputation, and he at least has a couple times where he's been there and been successful.
Yeah, and I mean, Arizona State shows up at NCAAs. They might not always look amazing during the regular season, but they do show up when it's time to go at NCAAs.
Lovett's just huge. Lovett is huge for this weight class. He's like so tall and so big, and nobody's been. A couple of people like Parco was able to deal with it with his speed, but now he's digging in those underhooks. I don't think anybody's going to get past those. I could see a weekend with as favorable as his side is. Like the best guy that I find him meeting is Henson in the semis, and I love Caleb Henson. He did a lot of good things, and he won an ACC championship, but even the ACCs are a totally different animal. The tournaments where it's a six-team tournament and you get a bye to the semis if you're the 1 seed, that doesn't show me that you're ready for the NCAAs. I know that the Big Ten guys are ready because they have to go through absolute hell just to win the conference. I know that they get 12 bids, but just to place at that tournament is an absolute nightmare. It's been considered. I've heard tons of people say that it's tougher than winning an NCAA tournament is winning the Big Ten championships.
Yeah, it's just so condensed. I'll tell you who looked good at Big 12s was Ty Waters from West Virginia.
West Virginia had a good little weekend, didn't they?
No, they did. I think they finished 3rd or 4th, somewhere around there. But Waters is about – he looks like he's 6'5". And big and strong. He reminds me a lot of Andonian, kind of in the way he's built.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Because I have him upsetting Henson in the quarters on Friday morning.
Okay. I had Ethan Miller beating Waters. I had Ethan Miller upsetting Waters, but that's my Big Ten bias because I did watch quite a bit of – I watched a couple of Maryland duels, and the Miller brothers were a lot of fun to watch, even when they were getting – pounded on by Penn State. That was one of the most boring duels that I've ever watched. But I get what you're saying. And there's a couple of guys from West Virginia that I watched over the weekend. I was like, God, I did not realize that program was where it is. Same thing that I thought about South Dakota State a couple of years ago. It's like, damn, that is a legit D1 program right there.
Yeah, they can scrap. And
what do you think about Little Rock too? That's as we're getting to like the intermission normally. Little Rock got 3 qualifiers, and that's a very, very young program. And
and I'm down there close to them. I live like 30 minutes from Little Rock, and just the little bit that I've talked with Coach Arisman and been around the team and stuff, which isn't much, but I mean, that's just a program. Like, they have developed such a good culture and a good group of guys. And I mean, their home duels are a blast. They're turning Arkansas more and more into a wrestling state. And it's so fun to watch because now it's this young state. Wrestling's pretty new, but there's finally something that the wrestling community can kind of rally around. And it's about one of the most exciting programs that you could be a fan of. They're doing a great job there. I have them having 2 All-Americans.
I
this
think
weekend
2 All-Americans from there also, because I remember seeing a couple of them in the Pac-12 finals.
Yeah, and they're tough, and they get better.
Pac-12 or was it ACCs?
They're in
Pac-12. It might have been. Yeah, it's one of those weird ones where they have to go all the way across country just to wrestle against anybody. But that was. I'm glad we talked about it because I hadn't heard of them before, but the fact that they had Nasir Bailey, a couple other guys that I was able to recognize, I was like, oh,
yeah,
that's the craziest. That plus the female wrestling, and I know you guys experienced this. You guys actually have a girls team. We were supposed to get one this year. It's not working out, but I could get to coach girls in freestyle and Greco. Girls wrestling's a lot of fun,
dude. It's so
for whatever anybody. It's honestly, and I don't know if it's just the girls that I got a chance to coach, but you tell them to do something and they win with whatever you tell them to do, and they come up and give you, like, they actually give you the praise. It's not like the boys where the boys sit there and go, yeah, I know that's what you told me to do, but I'm the one who actually had to do it. Go ahead.
It's a different kind of coaching. I mean, you run into different problems and issues as wrestlers than you would with guys, but yeah, I mean, they're high energy. They're fun to be around. It's a blast.
They have no bad habits because nobody's been ever coaching them. So like you get to just basically build them from the foundation up.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to 157s. How bad was that weight cut for you? Was that the most difficult thing you've done?
Yeah, I mean, it was bad, and I didn't help myself at all. I just remember never being under control. I remember I made it one time for the Wyoming Open, for the Cowboy Open, and didn't sleep that whole night. Was up running, working out with Coach Pfeiffer at like 3:00 in the morning. Ran to the arena, drilled with Jimmy for a little bit, and was just like, I'm done. And walked to the scale, and I'm like, if I'm on weight, I'm on weight. And 157, I was 57.0. But it was probably, we suffer more in imagination than in reality, and I was probably thinking it was worse than it actually was. Because it sucked. But
that's the biggest thing. That's that mindset that wrestlers have to overcome. It probably isn't as bad as you are perceiving it to be, but it does suck in the moment because that's a really difficult. It's a difficult sport on its own, and it's really difficult when you can't control your. That's the biggest thing. Everybody says, "Oh, coach wants me to cut weight." It's like, I don't want you to cut weight. If you would rather be the smallest guy at a comfortable weight class because you want to eat all the cake and candy and drink all the soda that you want after a tournament, I guess that's your prerogative. I can't really force you to do it. I would like to force you to do it, but I can't. If you can handle it, like I've seen that was the only reason our guy got to the state finals last year is because for his entire senior season, he was like, yeah, I'm giving up everything that's fun. I'm giving up all the candy that I like. I'm giving up all the sweets. I'm working out 2 times a day. I'm lifting weights, and I'm handling my nutrition. That's all I'm doing. But it's difficult. It's a sacrifice that you have to be willing to make. At 57s, do you have anybody beating Levi Haynes? And it looks like Hunter. I don't know if he can hear me. If he can, he's frozen. 57. I have Levi Haynes. I have Shapiro making a little bit of a surprise run. I know that Ja'Cory Teemer's the 2 seed at 157 pounds. I just don't have a lot of faith in the Pac-12, and I really don't have that much faith in the Arizona State program. So as much as I think that Teemer can make an impact in this tournament, I just think that it's going to be too difficult. And I would rather bet my money on Big Ten guys or EIWA guys, even like Meyer Shapiro. He's young. He's 23-2. I know that they don't wrestle the best competition all throughout the season. I know that Big Tens are better. But I think that Haynes, he just has too much to offer, and he's too strong. He's even more comfortable now than he was a season ago. I think Levi Haynes is destined to be the 157-pound national champion, and we'll see. Hunter, are you able to hear us, or are you still frozen there? All right. Well, that's the beauty of being able to adapt. You have the dark horse that I have at 57. If I'm going to give anybody, I mean, Frantic is a little bit dangerous. Teemer, if Arizona State has like 1 or 2 every couple of years where they like actually put it all together towards the end of the season. Let's see. I can see him in the background, so I don't know if he's able to come through. I can hear a little bit now. You hear me now? I'm not getting any of that. Well, I'm going to keep trying to get him back in here. Hopefully we're able to figure this out. It's normally not this bad of a connection issue, but I'm not sure quite what's going on here. At 157, Peyton Robb's a guy that he's tough. I have Chase Saldate making a huge run. So if you look at the bracket, Chase Saldate is a 24 seed. He's interesting to me because of where he comes from. He's on Daniel Cormier's team in his high school program. He's wrestled with the Dagestanis and Khabibs of the world. I think that he's he's a little bit of a wild card. I don't think that he can make a huge run, but just with what he's been able to do already, I think that Saldate is a guy that could possibly make some noise, and I have him making a surprise run, being an All-American this year. He's still super young, so it's not like this will be his last chance. I think next year's the year that he's really going to take over, but if he's able to get a surprise placing year and a surprise All-American year this year, I'm sure Michigan State will take it, because I don't have Michigan State doing much else in this tournament. Hopefully Hunter's able to get back with us. If not, I'll try and get his predictions, but obviously you can follow him on, I believe his Instagram's at Muldozer_7. So if you're looking for where you can find his other stuff, that's where he is. But I'm sure he'll be trying to get back in here shortly. Moving from 157s to 165. This is where I started to get a little bit of my hate online. I not purposely, but I don't want to always have the same picks as everybody else. I don't always want to go with the same opinions. I am interested to see how this one's going to work out. I hope we're able to get an O'Toole and Messenbring match. I think that those are probably the 2 guys that I'm most excited to see out of this weight class. But I do think that there's too much firepower for both guys. So I have the final for 165s as O'Toole and Ramirez. I have O'Toole over Hamity in the semis. I have Ramirez over Messenbrink in the other semifinal. I do have Messenbrink losing in the third place match. Hamity gets revenge from Wisconsin and avenges his Big Ten's loss. So that's kind of where I'm sitting as 165 stand.
My bad.
No, you're good. I was just keeping everything moving. For
Okay.
I had Haynes over Shapiro. I think that Shapiro is going to make a little bit more of a surprise run than people are expecting, and I don't have much faith in Teamer. Who do you think that who'd you have Haynes beating in the finals for 157s, so that we can move into 165s?
I have him over Shapiro also. Yeah, and same with you. I have Teamer losing to Franek in the quarters. Shapiro's just impressive. Like,
yep.
I think he's the total package. I just think he's running into Haynes, who's a buzzsaw right now. And I think
it's Shapiro's weight class next season.
Yeah. I wouldn't disagree. Now, my third place finisher in that weight is actually Ryder Downey.
Okay. That's different. That's definitely not what I had.
Ryder Downey, and I definitely have a Big 12 bias now since I went to the tournament. But watching him and Chittum have the dogfight that they had in the finals at Big 12s, I mean, just two dudes laying it out on the line. And it's not that Downey was ran him out of the building. But he impressed me. And I think a tough three-period match where he takes a guy to deep water, like, I like him. Like, he's a guy that the tough for the match, I like Ryder Downey. I just don't think he's beating Haynes.
No, I don't think that Downey's beating Haynes. I actually I didn't have too much different. I had Scott beating Downey in the fifth place match. So Downey gets sixth. Ed Scott from NC State gets fifth. But ESPN has the ACC Friday night duels, so I've seen Scott wrestle more than I've seen Downey wrestle. I love UNI though. I love their coach. I love Keckeisen. He's probably my favorite. I think Keckeisen is my favorite wrestler of anybody in this entire tournament, and one of the few guys that I actually follow on social media. So I love UNI, but Ed Scott really impressed me at the ACC tournament and in the duels that I watched him in this year. The NC State's good. And Papalizio has done something with that program. That used to not be a wrestling territory whatsoever, but like I believe they've won them or Virginia Tech have won the ACC tournament for like the last 8 years in a row.
Yeah, I mean, they're good. They're good. I like Scott a lot too. It's hard for me this bracket was tough for me because it looks like it should be cut and dry on paper, and I just don't think it is. I think this is
going to be a wild. I had Saldate finishing 8th because you know where Saldate's from?
He's a Colorado kid, isn't he?
No, he's from California, but he wrestled at DC's program. So he's actually been on that team that DC Cormier sends to Dagestan, and he's wrestled in like those international. He's a wild card. Like, he didn't have that great of a season. He's the 20, I believe he's like the 24. So it would be a hell of an upset if he does do what I have him pick. He's 25-6 and a 24 seed.
Yeah. No, here, like, and even at this weight, I have on my bracket, I have Cardenas and Chittum wrestling for a chance to go to the blood round against Peyton Robb. I mean, that's 3 guys that could all end up in the top 4 if they get hot.
Yeah. And
I have them in a blood round against each other. I mean, like, this weight could just be – it could go any way. Andoni and Blockus and Teamer all in the same blood round, that's going to be just as nuts.
Everybody's going to be down on Blockus and everybody because of the weekend that he had, but Blockus was supposed to be in the Big Ten finals. I know that he got upset along the way, but that was like the prediction going into the weekend. So Blockus is another guy that's liable. 57s, I think it's 57s and 25s right now are the two that I'm like, there's a lot of guys I can talk myself into. 65s is another one because that's kind of what we were talking about before we went live with the show. Obviously, O'Toole being the returning champion, he's somebody that everybody has their eyes on. Beat David Carr in the Big 12's matchup. What do you see about that little rivalry? Because Carr had him 3-0, going into the NCAAs last year, and O'Toole was able to pull it out. I know that O'Toole has the Askren and the funk, and I don't know how you feel about it. You obviously used the funky defense probably more than I ever did. I was still like, with majority when I was wrestling, they never wanted you to hang over in the waterfall and like grab ankles. They wanted you to sprawl and try and get away. Like, what is it that O'Toole has? Like, how is he able to shut down a guy that's as dynamic as David Carr? Because David Carr, I believe, can score pretty much on anybody on the planet. Yet when he wrestles against Keegan O'Toole, it's just a different animal that he's fighting.
I see, and two of my favorite guys in the last 10 years. David Carr's awesome. I think any other, like we say it about a lot of guys, but I really think almost any other time, David Carr's a multiple-time champ. He just got Keegan O'Toole in his weight. What I see is the matches that O'Toole wins, he wins the same way. So I don't feel like Carr has made a ton of adjustments in the way that he attacks O'Toole. O'Toole's so good at sitting the corner and hitting that kind of butt scoop from a crackdown, because David Carr's getting to a head outside all the time. A head outside.
He's so fast. He's just used to being able to finish it.
And he can't finish it. And I think he goes back to the well a little too often with O'Toole, but you can't blame him because it works on everybody else he ever wrestles. And
he pinned him in overtime last year in the Big 12 finals too. It's not like he's always winning by 1 or 2 points. Sometimes he totally dominates. Like that's the crazy thing about David Carr is that he could either be the best wrestler in the world, or he could possibly lose a 2-point match to a guy like Keegan O'Toole. That would be a little bit less imposing. The way that David Carr moves his feet, it's like, I want to jump rope. I feel like I love jumping rope. I feel like I could jump rope for 1,000 hours and my footwork would not be half as good as what David Carr has. He's just the most gifted athlete that I've seen in that sense. Like that, his footwork's impeccable.
And his wrestling knowledge and his wrestling IQ, to me, is better than his athleticism. Which it's crazy because then O'Toole is on a different level than that. And until somebody shows me that they can beat Keegan O'Toole, I'm not picking against him. I mean, I have O'Toole winning the tournament, and probably I think the line for OW with the guys he's going to have to beat. I think if you beat Carr and Messenbrink on back-to-back days, you put yourself in OW contention and you're undefeated. I mean,
you have him beating Messenbrink in the finals?
Yeah, I have. And then I have
that would be ESPN would be salivating. That would definitely make 65s the last match that they do, because Messenbrink is O'Toole's coach. Messenbrink is Askren's partner at the AWA Academy. And that would be like, they would have Billy Baldwin come back. They would have Anthony Robles would be involved somehow. They would have all the stars back. Like, yes, it's happened. We have the freshman Messiah going against the defending champion, and this guy his dad used to coach him. Who's he rooting for? It would be. It felt like too good of a story. I couldn't do the Disney ending. I have O'Toole over Ramirez. Something about the EIWAs. I like those Ivy League schools. I like watching them wrestle. I like Glory when he was at Princeton. I like Diakono Hollis. I like Arujau. I probably have a little bit of that East Coast Ivy League bias in me, which is weird for whatever reason. All right, let's keep things moving here and talk about. People are going to have to deal with this one with the connection and the dogs barking. It's going to be an interesting episode. I think everybody's going to enjoy it, but hopefully I know you're a real bench warmer if you listen to this episode. Hunter, if you can hear me, 74s. How stupid am I to have Starachi losing in the finals to DeVos from South Dakota State? All right. I will tell everybody as I'm trying to hopefully get him back in here. Are you good? That was the most contentious pick that I had all weekend. That was the one that I started.
And I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know if I have an EIWA guy in the finals. Oh no, I have one. I have Vito in the finals against Fix.
Yeah.
But
I feel it. That's gonna be interesting. I can't edit that out. I just hope everybody's good with dealing with it. Yeah, I'll get his thoughts there. We're wrapping up. We're close to the end. We're on 174s. There's only 3 more weight classes at 174 pounds. I know that he's possibly going for his 4th national title, which would make him, I think, the 18th person to get 4 national titles in his time in college. Carter Starachi, the golden boy from Penn State. I have him being upset. This is where I got a lot of my anger and a lot of the vitriol from the online community. But here's the thing. I want to be different. I don't want to just give everybody the same. Like, it'd be so easy for me to say that Starachi's going to win his 4th. I thought that it was really easy for me to pick Spencer Lee winning his 4th title last year. And that got blown up in the semifinals. Things happen. Weird stuff, especially this weekend, especially with titles and All-American status. A lot of these guys don't go on to wrestle internationally. So this is the last time that they have to compete. They want this thing more than anyone. I think this Starachi, if he gets to the final, that's fine. But whatever injury he's dealing with after Edinburgh, it gives me hesitancy. DeVos has lost 1 time. He's a Big 12 champion. South Dakota State is a legit D1 program. I think DeVos has a chance to do whatever he might want to do against Carter Starachi. There's a definite reality where Starachi loses in the finals. There's a definite reality where he goes and wins his 4th title.
Are we back?
We're back. There you go.
Thank God.
We were talking. I heard you say something about the EIWAs as it caught itself up. You only have Araujo in the finals.
Yeah.
The only other guy out of that one.
I think so far, yeah. No, 70.
How dumb am I to have DeVos beating Starachi at 174s though? Because that was basically the consensus from when I posted these online.
Starachi's another. I'm not saying he can't lose, but someone's gonna have to beat him for me to believe it. I struggle not picking him, and also that's a big change up. I have DeVos losing in the quarters
Against who?
to Lennox Wolak from Columbia.
Oh.
I think I don't know
I had
why.
Wolak losing to Contreras.
Which could very well happen. Contreras,
that's what
very good.
It's the difficult thing about picking
but then
the matches.
I have Ed or
Go ahead. Go ahead. Am I frozen on your screen?
You there?
Yeah, I'm here. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. What were you going to say? You have Ruth? Oh,
Hello?
boy. I'm going to try and get through this. This is longer than I thought the episode was going to go. I appreciate everybody tuning in for this long. And I apologize to Hunter that the connection's so janky. But we're doing a good job, and it's been good so far. We'll see if he's able to. I see him backstage. We'll see if he's able to get connected. I think that Edmund Ruth, to me, if he would have, do you hear me now?
Yep.
All right. I think you were going to say something about Edmund Ruth, and the reason why I have him finishing 5th, but if he would have been able to wrestle that finals match, if Griffith wasn't hurt in the Big Tens, I would maybe feel a little bit better about picking him to finish a little bit higher. But he's somebody I've heard about all season that's been on a little bit of a tear, especially recently.
And I'm just picking him because he texted me at Fargo when I was a sophomore. So I feel like it makes me look better if Ruth makes a final, you know?
There you go. Yeah. I've done that before. I always tell everybody, like, Colton Schultz, I was a senior when he was a sophomore. Luckily I didn't cut down to 220s because I wanted to avoid his ass. That dude turned into a Mack truck after I graduated. I was like, thank God I did not wrestle that man. That is a totally different beast now.
Yeah.
Let's move to 84s, and this is where we're going to have the same feeling. I have a Big 12 bias. I think that it's going to be Big 12 1 and 2. It's a Big 12 final once again because I haven't seen anybody besides Keckheisen do anything to Plot. But Keckheisen is my favorite wrestler in this tournament. I love following him. I love what he stands for. He's a really hard worker. He was a hair away from beating Brooks last year. He could have been – this could be his chance at a second national title, but, he ended up losing. Another guy at this weight class I'm interested to see. I don't know if you're aware, but Salazar is a Colorado guy out of Windsor High School. Isaiah Salazar, Big Ten champion, beat Truax in the Big Ten finals. But at 84s, I've been on Keckheisen all season. I don't think that anybody's taken him down. He's 26-0, and this is the year that he gets his national title.
Yeah, no, and I couldn't agree more. Keckheisen looks so impressive at Big 12s. And that's the thing. Like, I feel like Plot is the second best wrestler in the weight. And Keckheisen ran it up on Plot the last 2 times they wrestled. Salazar's another one. I wrestled Salazar. He was an 8th grader. I was a junior. We wrestled in the quarters or semis at Rocky Mountain Nationals. And I beat him. So I'm glad I got to say I beat him before he got as good as he is now.
That dude's a monster. What are you talking about? He's 20 pounds heavier than you are right now, Hunter.
Oh, I know. When I was a junior, he was an 8th grader and we were the same size. But no, he's good. I have Salazar. This weight was so fun for me because really, I think 2 through 6 is a toss-up. So I have Keckheisen, Plot, Munoz, Pinto, Truax, Salazar.
Yeah, I had Truax going on a little bit more of a run, but Munoz is an interesting wild card to throw in there because I normally wouldn't pick anybody out of the Pac-12, but his dad being who his dad is, I think that he's got something to say. He could definitely be one of those Pac-12 wrestlers that goes on a hot streak, and the Beavers maybe have a top 4 guy.
I think so. I think it's him. I think Lenny Pinto's really good too. Munoz is just such a good athlete, and I really do. I think he's wrestled a Pac-12 schedule, and so people haven't paid as much attention to him, but he's definitely the real deal, for sure. But then I got Sam Wolf and Dylan Fishback finishing out 7th and 8th in that weight. So that was a fun weight for me to pick.
Fishback was somebody to watch all year. It was too much. I did not have him. I think I had him close, but it was just at that weight class. Where's Fishback out of? NC State.
NC State.
Actually, I had him going 0-2.
Really? See, I think he catches the right road. If he catches the right road, I really think he can make a lot of noise. Yeah. But it'd be a matchup. I think he's beating any of those top 6 guys.
Yeah, I mean, 84 is big enough that if you catch somebody, that's a weight class where you can legit catch somebody on their back, and it's hard to get a 184 pound person off of you. So, everybody go on a little bit of a run there. I had him 0-2. I did not realize that. I thought that he was closer. Yeah. I put a lot of faith in Pinto. I did give Munoz his due, but that was mainly because of what his dad has done. And I know that Mark Munoz was a great wrestler in college also. And watching his Pac-12 finals match, that was like the one guy I could see maybe doing something in another tournament. Everybody else in the Pac-12 tournament, I don't think would have made it out of the first round anywhere else. At 97s, this one, I am Hidlay is a name that I've been aware of for a while. This is Trent. I used to watch his older brother. His older brother was a lot of fun to watch, and he was so close a couple of times. I believe he lost to Nolf by a point, and there was contention on whether or not there should have been a takedown. Hidelays are going to be haunted by Penn State for their entirety. I don't know what else to tell that family. I can't see, like, as good as he looked, he didn't wrestle in his ACC championship match. As good as he's been all season, he's not beating Aaron Brooks. Nobody's beating Aaron Brooks in the collegiate level this year. The only person that's going to beat Aaron Brooks is in the Penn State wrestling room, and that's David Taylor, who's already an Olympic gold medalist and world champion. That's the only guy that can touch him right now. There's nobody. Like, I watched him wrestle Jackson Smith, and that was supposed to be a big top 5 matchup. And Jackson Smith got so frustrated with not being able to do anything, he punched him in the face.
Yeah. Brooks is on a different level, dude. Because I have Hidlay Brooks in the finals here. I'd be like otherworldly strong compared to these other. He is in complete control of, and I think he runs through.
Anybody else that you put in the finals, I see Brooks absolutely dominating. He's going to dominate Beard in the semis. If Sloan goes on a run and is able to beat Hidlay in that other semifinal, I think Sloan is the one that gets the honor of being major decision / tech fault by Aaron Brooks. I think that's he's not only going to win his national championship, I think he's going to score bonus points in his national championship match. Because it's his last collegiate match, and he's been doing it for so long, but he is just that good. He is that much better than the rest of the field. He could score bonus points in every single match of this tournament, and that wouldn't be even that much of a surprise. Outside of Sloan and Hidlay and Brooks, is Sloan? How close do you think that gap is between Sloan and Glazer? Because Glazer's the guy that he's been top 5 all season. That's basically the only other Iowa guy that I really see being All-American besides Woods and Ayala. Do you think that could Glazer find himself in the 197 final, or is he? Let me double check. I don't think that he's on the same side as Brooks.
No, he
could possibly. So he'd have to run into Hidlay in the quarters.
And I think Glazer's just got such a tough road. I mean, Silas Allred is a tough second round match to draw. I have Allred beating Glazer on Thursday night in the second round. And then going backside, and I have Glazer losing to Beard in the blood round. Sloan falls to 6th because I think he loses in the semis to Hidlay and then loses to Beard in the Conci semis.
Okay.
So I don't know. Iowa's just got a lot of guys that are on the cusp that I just don't have a ton of confidence in them right now.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a couple of times. This isn't the Iowa team that I grew up watching and you grew up watching. They're going to have to step up. If they prove it, they can prove it. But that's one thing that they haven't done all year. My favorites, the heavyweights, the Dancing Bears, 285-pound weight class. Bastida, they have not wrestled. I did not realize that. I thought they'd seen each other at least once this season. Younger Bastida is 24-0. Kirk Fleet is 15-0. Kirk Fleet, former finalist. He lost last year, obviously. Not able to get his title, but it's basically been written in the stars this year ever since he pinned. Did he pin or tech Hendrickson in that All-American Classic that they had early on this year?
Bad. It was bad.
It was he absolutely destroyed him. So I have I feel like I'm pretty confident in saying that it's going to be Kirk Fleet and Bastida in the finals. I love Colton Schultz, and I watched him wrestle a lot in Colorado in high school, but it's not Greco. If it was Greco rules, nobody beats Colton Schultz. But if it's folk style rules and you have the ability to grab the legs, I don't see him taking it. And Hendrickson can pin everybody in a really weak Air Force schedule. But outside of that, he doesn't do much for me.
See, the Hendrickson, I love Wyatt Hendrickson. He's my boy. Me and him grew up wrestling together. After watching that Big 12 final, Bastida is so good, but I do think there's something about Hendrickson that I don't think he'll beat him again. I have Hendrickson Bastida in the semis.
I do too.
Because Young had a 6-point move. that kind of blew the match open. And then Wyatt has to trash his whole game plan and the rest of the match. I don't think that's going to happen again. I have Bastida getting third and Hendrickson getting second to Kerkvliet.
Okay. I have Bastida taking second, and I had Hendrickson finishing fourth because I have the bias of Schultz over Hendrickson in the third place match. But there's everybody likes to throw, especially at the big weights, and if you get thrown, it's very difficult to come back from that. So I see what you're saying about it's maybe not as lopsided of a matchup as it maybe have looked if you just look on the bracket. Like if you see on the bracket in the Big 12 finals that Hendrickson gets beat by multiple points against Bastida, you're like, oh, well, obviously Bastida's this much better. Now, Hendrickson's been 2 all season long. The one guy that before this that he hadn't been able to beat is Kerkvliet.
Which I don't think anyone's beaten.
He's another animal this year. Like as big as he is one of the most athletic guys of that size that I've ever seen. He reminds me of Kyle Snyder in the way that he moves on his feet, but he's bigger. Because Kyle Snyder was giving up 40 pounds, but it's just the way that he's always on the attack and that mentality thing too. Like this year, he's been in the biggest moments, he's wrestled his best. I did not expect him to put Hendrickson on his back the way that he did in that match and absolutely dominated him. I think that he's still going to beat Bastida. I think that this is his title to win at 285. And
I think
Sanderson continues his streak of dominant heavyweights because, Cacer, can't even remember, Casella or whatever his name was, that upset Cable that one year. Cassar. That's who it was. Cassar. Yeah. And now Kerkvliet will be the next one. And I'm sure they have some stud freshman heavyweight next year that's going to just show up and dominate everybody too. That's what Penn State does at this point.
It is 100%.
With that, who do you have in Penn State your national champion team-wise this year?
Yep. And I don't think I think
not even close.
I think they win by 40. I have right now, I'm doing the math. I have Penn State with, let me look real quick. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize it was this bad. I have Penn State with 6 champs, 7 finalists, and 10 All-Americans.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's all Penn State for you then.
Which now that I say that sounds so ridiculous.
If they do that, they don't have to wrestle Friday. They wouldn't have to wrestle Friday or Saturday morning if they did. Jesus.
I know, and I really think
it's not.
I think they win. It's
ridiculous.
I have them first at 25, fourth at 33, first at 41, third at 49, first at 57, second at 65, first at 74, fifth at 84, first at 97, and first at heavy.
Yeah, they're going to dominate if that happens.
Yeah.
They win by like 80 points, not just let alone 40. They'd win by 80.
Which I don't know. That might have been my bias building as I went through these brackets. But, I mean, realistically, yeah, I think they could mathematically not wrestle on Saturday.
Yeah. The way that sounds. And I think I went the opposite. As I continued to fill in the bracket, I tried to be as opposite of Penn State bias as possible, but I still have them finishing as the top team. Even if they don't have a ton of finalists, they're going to have enough guys on the backside that they're going to win, and I think they are going to win comfortably. Team that I was surprised by, I have Penn State, Iowa State as the 1-2. Missouri's been kind of hanging around there, and as a dual team, they weren't as good, but the tournament team, when you don't have to rely on the momentum of an actual duel, Missouri seems to be a little bit better. I had NC State at 4, Cornell at 5, and Oklahoma State at 6, which that's what I was talking about with not having as many Iowa guys in the finals. I don't see Iowa being able to push as much in the team race as they wanted to, and that's going to be bad news bears for any Hawkeye fans, but I just don't see them. They're not going to be in the top. They'll be top 10, but they're not going to be top 6, which is really detrimental for that program. Like, that's not what they expect at all. they expect to be able to always push for a national title, and that's not this season.
No, I don't think.
All right. Just because I'm sure that it's as frustrating as possible what he's having to go through with his Wi-Fi. And not to cut him off or anything, but that is the end of the show. That's all we're going to talk about. We went through all 10 weight classes. We've hit on a couple other storylines there. I'll make sure that I pull it up for him just in case he's not able to come back. Let's see. Who am I talking to? It looks like he's coming back in on a different one. All right. I'm just so that you're not frustrated anymore with the Wi-Fi. That go ahead and we'll wrap up the show. So any last thoughts that you wanted to give everyone before we kind of wrap up, and I'll send you off before I do all the extra work and everything.
No, dude. Thanks for having me on. First of all, I love it. Sorry about the Wi-Fi. Basement of a ski resort. So it's spotty. But no, I do think that because this is going to be so Penn State heavy, I think that team race from 2 to 6 is going to be just as exciting as any other year, the team race. That team race for those last 3 trophy spots is going to be really exciting. But that's what makes this tournament fun, is that we're probably going to look like complete idiots on Monday. And because so much can happen and you can predict it as much as you want, but it's why we don't wrestle on.
It is a possibility. And with that, Hunter, again, appreciate you coming on. Super exciting. And I'll get you back on. I'll talk more college wrestling next year. That way we don't have to wait a couple years in between every time. But I appreciate you jumping back on, and it's fun because I didn't even get your reaction, but would you have predicted that I would be a wrestling coach along with you guys after college or anything like that? Hey, I don't think. You hear me?
Heck yeah. You wrestled, so you're going to coach wrestling.
Yeah. It's a lot more fun than coaching football.
100%. So much more fun.
Yeah, and I stay in better shape.
Yeah, you get to move a little more as a wrestling coach.
Yeah, and you get to put somebody back in their place. That was my favorite part about last season. The guy that I've been working with, he took me down once all season in practice, but he made the mistake of celebrating when he took me down. And then after he celebrated, I look up an hour and a half later and he goes, "You kicked the crap out of me." I say, "Oh yeah, I didn't even realize. You kind of pissed me off this morning when you said, oh,
dude, you put me."
It doesn't matter if you take me down, but if you celebrate it, I'm going to be pissed.
No, exactly.
I'm here for you to beat me. I want you to get good enough to take me down, but don't take me down and then say woo in my face. If you woo in my face, then it's going to get ugly.
100%.
I don't care 100%. If you're 17 years old. I will beat you like a man.
Yep. Definitely.
All right. And enjoy the rest of your trip. I appreciate you coming on and battling through everything. Enjoy watching the tournament this weekend because I know that's what you're going to be doing also. That's my entire plan for the whole weekend.
Sounds good. I'm sure we'll be in touch during it. But, yeah, thanks for having me on, buddy. Anytime.
All right. Sounds good. Let's go ahead and wrap things up. Big thanks again to Hunter Mullins for jumping on, giving us his opinions about the NCAA Wrestling Tournament. Real quickly before we send everybody off, be sure to follow and subscribe at FEOTB Pod. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to let Hunter know. Tell him to get back on as quickly as possible. Let us know. You'll be able to listen to this on the Variety Sports Network as well. But Talk the Gridiron is back every single week. Once again in the offseason, I'm taking over as the quarterback of that show. Plus, Nico's returning tomorrow live, March Madness. Don't miss it, 8:30 Mountain Time, so it's a little bit later. But we are giving you all the content that we possibly can as March continues to roll on. It's probably the best sporting month of the entire year. March Madness, March Madness. Thank you guys for tuning in to this extra special bonus episode with Hunter Mullins and myself, Jimmy Pilato. We will see you guys tomorrow night for March Madness Breakdown.
If you don't stay down and you never quit, come on over here and sit on the far end of the bench.